good, Italian job?
Feeling good, Tommy boy. How are you, brother?
I'm great, man. It's been a good week. Incredible weather for getting back out in the gloom. I've picked back up running after pretending that running sucks for a long time. My rucking legs need to get some speed underneath them. And so it's been a good week for doing that. We've got a lot of cool things to talk about. It's a great topic this week. We'll get into that in just a minute. But how about you? How's your week been?
Good, man. It's been heavy with work, but that's good. But we're ramping down the school year with the kids. So today I got to spend a couple hours at the Rock Hill Fire Department Museum and let my smallest shorty, my 2-year-old son, he got to play around on the fire trucks and put on the fireman outfit. And, let's be honest. As a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter or a police officer. As an adult, I walked through these places and I'm like, I wish they had a jacket my size. I wish I had a hat that I could put on. It was awesome. It was a good morning indeed. And we've got a good guest scheduled for this call. And then this weekend, some good workouts planned. So it's been bueno, my friend. Muy bueno. Very good.
Muy bueno. You just dropped, let's see, we're recording on a Friday, which means News of the Nation just dropped. Any highlights that you need to address before we dive into this?
Absolutely, man. So there is a video, and it's probably my favorite hype video that I've seen to date. And this was put together out of Springfield, Tennessee, part of the GT that just occurred in mid Tennessee. But there's a sweet hype video. It's one of those that you want to share on your social media if you have a presence there. But it's a sweet hype video. Then there's the GT27 Mid Tennessee AAR that was very well written by Cosmo. And then if you scroll through, and there's some more information about the upcoming Grow Rucks, including what's going on this weekend, which is Northwest Arkansas, and then NWA. Next month, we've got another good, great one going on at Pacific Northwest. And then there's a cool video from Dilfer in Puget Sound where he just talks about, why should you attend a GTE, a Grow Ruck training event? And he talks about language and leadership, and it's about a minute clip. It's a sweet one. We added a new region, so welcome the packs of F37 Hills in Virginia. We've heard about the 24 hours of boot camp that occurred in the St. Louis area, so there's a little special piece on there. Also, if you're not on Slack, the Slack channels are it is the social media platform for the nation. So it's always a good idea if you're not on Slack to go ahead and join the Slack channel. But on there's kind of a pointer that came from 88 and from Chili Pepper where it talks about, hey, if you're traveling, going downrange and you're going on vacation, to go to the downrange channel. And you can even do an @ and type in the region. And if a PAX has his region behind his name, it'll show, it would show Italian Job, the Fort. And so you can kind of play with that a little bit. And international travel, you can reach out to Chili Pepper. If you don't find it on the international map or on our maps online, there may be something going on behind the scenes. And so reaching out to him. And then our Live Right is the Q topic of the week. It's Q.2 for those who are keeping track at home, and I hope that you are. And then our PAX picks of the week is Birmingham and their 5th anniversary convergence. And it looked like they had like 200 guys, which was phenomenal. So yeah, that's kind of a rundown on the News of the Nation. If you're not getting the News of the Nation and you want to, you can go on f3nation.com. You'll see a little banner. You can click on that. Or you can reach out to Tommy Boy or myself. We'll forward it to you and we'll show you how to log in and join that. But it comes out every other week. And it just so happens that today, May the 13th, is the day that it comes out. So that's what I've got. That's what's going on the News of the Nation.
Outstanding. And fellas, check your calendars. As you know, Memorial Day is right around the corner. I hope your convergences are planned if you're having them. If not, certainly find a way to get out to a war memorial in your city, honor the fallen, build a workout around a hero, put together a hero wad, take a hero wad off the internet, whatever it takes, but pause and reflect and put in some work for the guys and gals who put in work that we could go out and do the dumb things that we do. Super important. All right. So without further ado, let's dive into what we're calling Form Week. F as in Frank Schwartz. F as in Frank, ORM Week. M as in Mary, Form Week. I'm a form police myself. I drive guys crazy. One of my favorite stories is most of the nation, I believe, calls them cherry pickers. Done in cadence, legs are spread apart. You're touching the ground, 1, 2, 3, up. If you're fancy, you're clapping. I've noticed lately that guys in Nat Bill, some I call them prison style. They just bend over and touch the ground. They never come back up until the exercise is over. And they're missing the entire second half of the benefit of that exercises, which is a strong lower back. So I call them out on it all the time. So when Form Week rolls around, the idea of Form Week, there's a couple regions out there that do it often, once or twice a year even. I applaud that, and I couldn't think of a better guest. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Form Week. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of good form, bad form, how to lay out your Form Week. We brought in our man Bones from the Hunt for Wellness podcast. This guy is a chiropractor. He's an author. He's a public speaker. He's worked with the Carolina Panthers, so you can blame him for their horrible seasons. You name it, but the dude is a stud. The dude is a motivator wherever he plugs himself into. So Bones, thanks for being a part of the Stuff Worth Trying podcast, brother.
Brothers, thanks for having me, man. I am super excited, and I'm feeling good. So my question to you guys, am I looking good?
You are looking great. Somebody just screenshot that hair. That hair is top notch. I would put it in the top 5 hairdos of the nation. Yes. And that's in some pretty good company with the guys like Tool Time and with Dark Helmet. You're at the top of the hair game. So A+ on that. Good job.
Well, I appreciate that. I tell people it's all about the product. You use enough of it, it keeps the hair where it needs to be.
It's that new Mud Gear Grit and Spit hair gel, right?
That's right. That's right. The Chum Bucket hair gel of choice.
That's the one. I love it. Well, we appreciate you carving out time. If we're going to talk about Form Week, we have to start with the foundation, right? And as you know very well, in your line of work and your mammon, you see it all the time, whether people are doing it right or wrong, and where that stems from. So I guess we'll just start with a broad-based question. When it comes to form, why does form in exercise matter?
Yeah, I mean, at the very fundamental aspect of it, it matters because it maximizes the exercise that you're trying to do, first and foremost. So if you're trying to get maximal benefit of an exercise, doing it properly is the only way to actually get the optimal level of benefit. Now, having said that, on the other side of the spectrum, you're looking at injury. You're looking at things that could absolutely prevent you from being able to do further exercise or continue to improve your health and overall fitness level. So, we have attachments, muscle attachments, tendon attachments at certain areas in our body, certain bones, certain structures. And when we don't do a form properly, you're kind of shortcutting the proper mechanism of that joint or how well that muscle is supposed to elongate or shorten. And you're just really kind of setting yourself up for failure in the long term when we're not doing the proper form. So that's really, in a nutshell, why we want form. Twofold. One is to maximize the effort that we're trying to achieve, and then 2, to prevent that injury.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say that F3 has probably been pretty good for our chiropractor business and PT business in our regions around the world. Have you seen some guys who have come in because, hey, listen, either they did too much or they did poor form and hurt themselves? Do you ever see that come in where someone has hurt themselves from poor form or over exertion?
Yeah. So, I mean, over the years of being part of F3, I think I'm on my 7th year now. My practice has surprisingly grown more and more F3 dominant. There's many mornings in my waiting room where it looks a mini COT out there as far as guys coming in and getting their care, which is great. It makes my staff laugh when these guys come in with their nicknames. And everyone's trying to be all medically a professional. But yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. I mean, form plays a big role. Overuse is another issue, obviously, out there. And whether it's in my office or not, I mean, I'm out in the gloom. I'm talking to guys out there, and unfortunately, I'm firsthand witness to a lot of poor form out there, and you can definitely tell guys get injured. And they get sore in areas that it shouldn't be sore, or they're not allowing that proper full range of motion of a joint. So they're not developing even the muscle spindles or, in the full development it could be. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely.
We're in the middle, or at least several guys across the nation are in the middle of 10,000 Merkins in May. And that comes to mind two things. A, form certainly matters. If you're trying to knock out, if you bust it up evenly, those 323-ish Merkins a day, two things come to mind. If your form is not dialed in, you're going to get hurt. Also, and this comes up a lot in the workout, you run from one station to the next station, you drop down, you're supposed to knock out 20, 30 reps of something, and guys just blaze right through it. So speed also comes to mind, or slowing down rather. How have you seen speed play out in some of the folks that come through your doors?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just going to kind of talk about what we see out in the AO specifically. I mean, there's certain cues and winkies that kind of demand more of a speed work, where you're going from station to station, or a Dora, or you're in a competition with another set of PAX members. And so that's really where I see form suffer the most, is when guys are trying to, kind of move along the workout progression faster than they need to move on. And so as a result, guys really kind of shortcut that full form because it's just faster to do. And unfortunately, obviously, they're just, again, not getting that benefit that you're looking for. So, going back to the Merkin, the 300 a day or whatever, the 1,000 Merkins, I'm a big fan of challenges like this, because I think we all should push ourselves. I also just want to put the caveat out there that if you're not able to do 10 Merkins, going on a 3,000 Merkin challenge is probably not the best idea for you. You don't go in any other exercise capacity, whether it's CrossFit or even going to a gym, you're not going to be encouraged to do something way beyond your capabilities. So guys, check your pride at the door. Maybe this isn't for you just yet, and that's okay. It's about that modification, because I'd rather you modify than try to do an exercise or do something that's just going to just blow out your muscle or blow out your ligaments or whatever you're trying to do. So that's one, but B, yeah, when you're not doing, and for me, and you mentioned a few of them already, but for me, the two biggest ones that I feel like PAX really struggle with proper form is that Merkin you just mentioned, and then the squat.
Yep.
I mean, those are the two that classically are used a lot in an exercise or in an AO that just, for the most part, aren't done properly or fully. Let's just say it that way. And the Merkin, you get the head bob and the little baby mini elbow bend, and it kind of looks more like
the pulsers,
Carolina dry dock. Yeah, it's just they're barely going down. And then the squat, I always tell people you got to bend your knees when you squat. What you typically see in an AO is a guy bending his back forward over and over again, and unfortunately those are two, but that's because they're trying to rush through it. And I don't know what the original question was back to, but it was certainly speed. When guys try to do it too quickly, that's when form gets messed up. And so that's why I personally, when I cue, I do a lot of those type of things in cadence. And I like to do it as a group versus kind of a progression or a race, because guys are less likely to, quote unquote, shortcut themselves if they feel like they're not trying to get ahead of somebody else.
I think it's a really good point. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot is when we're doing a warm up and we do a windmill, some of these guys, 1, 2, 3, 1, no. A windmill, you got to I don't want my hamstring to jump out of my leg and say, hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. I mean, let's slow it down and do a proper legs. Your knees should not be bent, and you should keep your arms straight and try to go down and touch your toe. If you can only touch your knee, but don't go so fast that you're risking pulling and damaging a muscle. So, keeping things slow, and that's a great point of keeping the cadence pure. One of the things that I like to do is, for instance, a tempo Merkin. This morning, as part of our warm up, we did tempo Merkins at my cadence, which is 1, 2, 3. That's your way down. And then 1 is up. And so it's real hard to cheat yourself when you're slowly going down. Sometimes people call those copperhead Merkins, but that slow cadence. How many times have you guys been to a workout where you're doing Merkins in cadence, and you're like, how in the heck is this guy going that fast? And you look up, he's not doing Merkins. He's head bobbing, or, just barely bending his elbows. Sometimes, and this is the hard part, sometimes it's important for us to, call out that form. You mentioned Frank Schwartz earlier in the workout. Dark Helmet has a literal form horn. It's an air horn, and he has a red air horn and will literally, hey, Italian job, lock your hands behind your head on those sit-ups. I mean, he'll call it out, and it's obnoxious. And the guys get frustrated. Shut up, DH. And then we're like, he's right. He's right. So, that form horn, sometimes you need that guy who's going to call out and say, hey man, that is too fast. Let's slow it down a little bit. Let's work on the form a little bit. So that's some good feedback you gave, Bones.
Well, it's all about accountability, right? Accountability and candor, and we're there to remove obstacles. And sometimes we are our own obstacle. And if we don't see it, somebody else needs to. Because at the end of the day, we don't want guys getting hurt, right? We love to come out and pound the pavement together because we enjoy the fellowship. And if the guy's missing because he's on the IR, because he's threw his back out or what have you, then that sucks for everybody. So that takes us into form week. And again, I've seen this pop up across the nation. I love when guys lean into it because it is important. It's just a good refresher of why we do what we do and how to do it properly so that we could gain the biggest benefit from it. And we can kind of, jump through this. And Bones, if you have any insight or want to take a hot take on, add your hot take to it, that'd be great. But the first thing you want to do is, and this obviously depends on the size of your region. You can do it at any size, but some of the things we talk about may or may not apply to your region just yet. But you want to gather your first F chair or chairs, or gather your site cues, and start looking at your calendar of what's coming up in your region and pick a week. It may be 5 days, it may be 3 days, it may be a full 7-day week, and denote it as form week and lay it out there for the packs, advertise the snot out of it so they know it's coming. And odds are you'll start to see the trickle effect just from that campaign where form might pop up here and there in some of your back blasts because guys are prepping for it. But you definitely want to, build that SLT, that shared leadership team around it. And that doesn't mean you have to be a part of it. You can just reap the benefits by posting that week, but find your team, put them together, and task them with what's coming up. You also want to develop your schedule. Like I said, maybe 3 days, maybe 1 day. It may be form weekend. But the point is that you're getting form across. And again, depending on your region size, that's going to dictate how many days you're leaning into it, how many AOs are participating. Is it one AO? Is it 5? What have you? And you can focus on, you just said this a second ago, IJ, but you can focus on a handful of exercises, or you can focus on a whole muscle group and spread that out across the week. Maybe you're doing Merkins at your Monday morning workout, and Wednesday focuses on squats, and Friday is core work, or maybe it's leg day and it's all leg exercises on Monday, and every single one of them you're going to focus on form.
And Tommy boy, to piggyback on that, there are certain exercises you can do that forces good form, like hand release Merkins is one of the best ways of making sure you get full Merkin form. Because when you're in the down position and your hands come off the ground, you've got to come back up. So hand release Merkin is a really good one. On squats, I've seen some guys who will find a step up, that we would normally do step ups on, and you squat down till your butt hits that seat and you come back up. So it's guaranteeing that your butt is actually going down. So those are the two ones that we abuse the most. So having some and looking at the Exicon and seeing what other guys have done. Tempo Merkins are a good one to really focus on it. I've also heard when it comes to diamond Merkins, I've heard them called heart to hearts. So your chest is literally hitting your hands before you come back up. On the wide arm Merkins, sometimes it depends on, you can isolate your muscles by the way that you position your hands, but don't make them so far that it's not even possible to do a wide arm Merkin. Or Ranger Merkins are really great because your hands are right at underarm level or at nipple level when you're going down and making some solid motions. So it does, if you're doing a chest focused, form workout, You don't have to have a guy with a clipboard and a whistle calling you out. It's more along the lines of you're calling the exercise that forces good form. And so there's some good stuff out there. I didn't mean to step on you, but
No, it's
yeah, I want to
perfect
jump
because it
in.
makes me think of, lately I've seen a lot of really great cinder block pictures, right? Guys are proud of their cinder blocks, and some of those things are looking sweet. To your point about squats, put the cinder block on its end and squat down to your butt hits and, lift your feet, whatever you want to do, but take your time. Like, focus on a long back is a strong back. Find a point on the horizon. Your eyes should be focused on that. You shouldn't be looking at your feet. Otherwise, you'll hunch over and things could start to go wrong. Regarding push-ups, made me think of something that I love to do. I have a box of a dozen hotel front desk bells, the little bellhop bells that you see. And I have, and from time to time, I'll break them out, lay them in a line. Guys have to ring the bell with their chest. So they go all the way down, ring that bell and come back up. That's another great way to ensure that you're not going to want to throttle through that merkin for fear of impaling yourself on a hotel bell. But you also, it doesn't count unless the bell rings. So a couple different points there. So great tips.
Yeah, let me, if you don't mind, do you mind if I jump in real quick? No, it's because I think you guys are hitting some really good ones, and the merkin and the squat being the two that I think are the most abused. But I consider there's like 5 major lifts out there that every man should do as far as kind of being in strong. And the press, the merkin and the squat are 2 of those. And really, we should optimize those when we're out in the gloom. And so I've heard some really good examples or tips, I guess, by the 2 of you up to this point of what we need to do. And so, yeah, my rule of thumb too is when we do the merkin, I mean, that chest should hit the ground. If your chest isn't grazing the ground, you're just not going low enough. And most men, if they're honest with themselves, aren't even coming close to that. A good second would be the bell, but most of us don't hijack hotel bells in our travels. So we may not have a couple of those, but just getting another man to put their fist down on the ground and just go down and like touch that fist, because that's accountability not only to the person doing the merkin, but the person kind of keeping that person accountable is a good one. And then from a squat standpoint, you brought it up as far as picking a spot on the horizon. Like I said, if we're honest, I mean, Pax, next time you go out there and do squats, look around how many guys are looking at the ground doing squats. And that's really because, again, they're doing a back bend. Most men, or at least in my experience, the Pax bend more of their back than their knees when they do a squat. And that's not what's supposed to be. The back is supposed to be neutral. It's supposed to stay in the same position in the upright as it is in the lower part. And so really working on keeping that back up and your eyes up. And one thing that you can do is obviously, it's weird, but you can stand in front of another Pax member and keep gaze on each other as you go down and back up. Or if you're in a circle, make everybody, keep eyes up across the circle just to make sure that no one's kind of bending down. But I get that people have limitations. People do have knee issues, people have hip issues. And, of course, that's where modification come in. But the reason a lot of people aren't doing a proper squat isn't because of an actual injury. It's just because we have a lack of mobility in those joints. And that's because we have a society that sits all day long in front of computers, in front of the devices, and we've lost that natural instinct to squat. If you look at your kids, especially when they're younger, I mean, they can sit down in a squat all day long. And as we get older, we lose that. But if you look at like hunter-gatherer societies, or if you go now, even look at those populations, men in their 80s still can squat down in front of a fire and sit in that position for a long, long period of time. So one of the things I always encourage patients to do, and certainly this could be a challenge as well for people, is learn how to squat again and just sit in a squat for a couple minutes at a time, because that really opens up your hip. It extends your ankles, your knees, all those things that we're just not doing on a daily basis. So really working on that. And to get that squat form, one of the things that you can do is, I've heard a couple good suggestions where, put the cinder block up and sit on it, or a bench. That's a good way of doing it. Another thing that can be an assistance especially when you're first kind of working on your squat form, is find something to hold on to in front of you. So whether it's a bench, a pole, whatever, and if you hold that and then allow yourself to completely squat down, you're going to be able to go much lower quicker than if you're trying to do the balance and everything on your own. So, and then you can modify that even if you don't have something to hold on to. Grab a PAX member across from you, lock arms, lock hands, and squat down together, because now you're using that force across the way to kind of help you stay balanced as you go lower and lower. And those are just ways of kind of really improving that deeper squat, which is going to provide that much more benefit to your overall function. Because I mean, we're talking about getting in shape and building muscle, and that's important. But really what we want is, how well are we going to function in our 60s and 70s and 80s, and how well can we get off the floor, and how well can we function? Well, that's going to depend on these functional motions like squat. And then the one more thing about the Merkin, it's okay to get on your knees and do a proper full range of your chest and arms. It's not doing you any good to just barely, bend your elbows or nod your head. That's not what the Merkin's designed to do. A push-up / Merkin's designed to use the pec muscle in full range of motion to develop the pecs and the chest muscle, as well as the back muscle, because that's the eccentric motion going down. So those are two motions. And if you're not getting that full range of motion, you're losing out. So I'd rather a guy get on his knees and go full range of motion than try to quote unquote man it out and hold a plank, but barely go down, because the guy on the knees doing it full is getting bigger and stronger than the guy that's just kind of holding plank and barely going up and down. But anyway, I wanted to throw those 2 cents in since we were talking about those exercises.
I'll tell you one that I've cheated on. I'll just be candid with everybody listening. I've cheated on my lunges. How many times have you, when the lunge is called and you're just barely going down, if you want a proper lunge, that knee is, if not touching the ground, it's almost touching the ground. And it's very similar to the squat. You just bend enough that you can move forward. But a proper lunge is going to get that knee either parallel with the ground or touching the ground. And so for me, when I'm focusing on form, it's literally, I'm going to get my knees dirty on my lunge walks, so to speak. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
No, that's good accountability. I mean, same is true. I switched to a while back to reverse lunges because I knew I was going to keep cutting corners on forward lunges. And so I just switched and the guy, put it out there, and guys call me on it if I'm not doing it. And it sucks, but you learn real quick. Mm-hmm. I just, I can't stress enough. I don't want to see guys that I care about get hurt because they're cutting corners when they could be on their knees doing a push up versus they're 6 high in the air, or they're doing dry humping the pavement, and they're going to put unnecessary strain on their back. And then they wonder why they can't walk the next day because their back is destroyed. So form week, you can make it as big as or as little as you want. I'll put a pin in it by saying this. Scale it to the size of your region, to the size of your AO. It could be as big as the full workout where guys are held accountable to one another, buddy guys up, and they're just hammering each other. Or they get their, what'd you call it? The form horn? The form horn. The DOA form horn. Or it could simply be, you've got a Q who's really good. Maybe he is a professional, a fitness professional, and he could lead the warm-a-rama, and he hammers home the importance of focused, methodical form to get the most gain out of the work that you're putting into the motion. Does that make enough sense, Bones, to qualify?
Yeah, and I just thought of something else that actually would be really, really good. First of all, we got to come and we got to be able to be candor with each other, right? And guys should be willing to accept that and share that. But one of the things that are probably super effective is grab your phone and videotape the guy doing it. Nothing shows you how poorly you look until you see it firsthand. So if we really want to do a form week, one of the things that we could do is, videotape your form and allow yourself to see it firsthand. And I think a lot of correction will be self-evident at that point.
Then you
I have
can
a
send it to us at F3SWT on Twitter, and we'll upload it to our brand new, as of 5 seconds ago, TikTok Form Week channel. You
So-
too may be featured.
So I'll tell you, Bones, you bring up something that it's a funny moment for me. I remember you guys may have met Burgundy. Burgundy is a very good runner out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Burgundy bounces when he runs. And I said, Burgundy, you look ridiculous. He said, have you ever seen yourself run? I said, no, I don't do that. And he said, watch this video, because there was a video where we were both running into an exchange zone at the Palmetto 200 and I bounced. I bounced just like Burgundy, and I had no idea. So, it's one thing to have candor with your buddy and say, hey man, your form could use some improvement. But just like Bones said, recording your own form, I didn't realize some of the exercises. I've never recorded my workouts until during the pandemic, when we were doing these Zoom type workouts, and it saved it. And I started watching, and then I realized all the time that I thought I had pretty good form, I was taking shortcuts. We don't always take shortcuts because we're trying to. Sometimes it's just we haven't been taught, or we don't know that our form is not proper. So recording yourself can really help you to see, I'm not getting the full extension I'm not getting a full squat. I'm not doing well on my lunges. I'm not going deep enough on my push-ups. Another one, my dip, your dips may not be going down as deep as they really should. It's not just an elbow bend. It's literally you're bringing your waist down. You're getting a good full extension on your arms. So yes, recording yourself is a great thing to do, Bones. I like that a lot.
Solid. Before we get into the challenge worth trying, I'm going to preempt it with a mini challenge worth trying. I've picked two great videos. They're very short. One is on the proper push-up form. One is on a proper squat form. I'm going to put those in the show notes. So you have some homework here, Pax. You're going to watch those videos and pay attention to the tips given. Reason I'm doing this is I don't want you to go online and Google on your office computer proper Merkin, because I want you all to keep your jobs. So there'll be two videos in the show notes. IJ, what is the official challenge worth trying?
You had mentioned watching those videos. So that's absolutely one of those things. Watch those videos, but implement that into your workouts this week. If you're on cue, if you're cueing in this upcoming week or in future weeks, pick that one exercise and challenge the packs on their form. And the way you challenge them on it is show them proper form from the very beginning. And then when you're calling the cadence, have the candor to, and now again, as Bones was saying, you're not just going to call out the FNG and be like, hey dude, form sucks. Because I don't think the FNG would want to come back for that. But there is a certain way of addressing it amongst the packs. Some guys can handle the criticism in front of everybody. Some guys just kind of pull to the side and give them a heads up. Hey man, if you can't do that full extension, maybe go to your knees on the market. Something along those lines. So the challenge is watch the videos and then incorporate proper form into your cue that you have upcoming, and inform the guys of what it should look like, and then call them out if it's not looking right, or have them call you out. Encourage them to call you out if you're not hitting that proper form. This is on the heels of what Slaughter shared with us a couple of weeks back on really pushing ourselves to do heavier, harder things, because sometimes we get real soft. And if we're left to our own devices, we will get soft. Our form will be sacrificed. So taking that next step and pushing it forward, make sure your form's proper.
Shatter the status quo. Bones, before we sign off, any parting shots from you, brother?
No, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and just share. I think we have an awesome thing going on here as far as F3 is, and just part of this whole getting right is really building that king. And I think part of that foundationally is that form part. And if we're not getting proper form, we're not going to get proper acceleration, which we're not going to achieve those goals that we're all looking to do. So like I said, there's nothing wrong with modification. There's nothing wrong with taking it slow, but don't cheat yourself by not doing it properly.
100%. Well, Bones, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Guys, if you haven't given Hunt for Wellness a listen, check it out. There's a wealth of information from a very passionate and intelligent gentleman who we like to call Bones. Italian Job, it's always good to share the airwaves with you. Podpacks Nation, as always, be good, or at least be good at it.
Hi.
Love you guys.
Love you, man.